Without me, you're nothing. I used to think that was corporate bravado, until the night I found my sister chained in my boss's penthouse. I'm not proud of how long I stayed quiet, but this is the first time I'm telling the full story. Be honest, what would you do? And I'm 28, an executive assistant at a Manhattan tech startup. Glass walls, hot espresso at 7 a.m., Slack pings that never sleep. I moved from Boston with one plan: work hard, get stable, prove I wasn't the flaky kid everyone remembered. The city sounded like a promise. Subways groaning, cabs honking, servers humming in the office basement. I told myself I could outwork any red flag. And that's when I realized how easy it is to normalize crazy. Dat NNMY boss is the kind of founder who gets profiled for vision and grit. He remembers birthdays, signs MacBooks with a silver Sharpie, orders Shake Shack for the whole floor after late releases. People call it culture. I called it a safe place to start over. On week 2, he handed me a gold embossed keycard. "This is for your own good," he said, smiling like a mentor who sees potential. The card was heavy and cold in my palm. It felt like trust. It felt like a leash. It only got worse from there. NNMY job wasn't just calendars and board decks. It was secrets. Investor calls at 11 p.m., last-minute Tesla runs, dry cleaning a navy blazer after a coffee spill that smelled like whiskey. I told myself it wasn't some boss romance or forbidden love drama, just logistics and loyalty. But then I noticed gaps. An older assistant's name on outdated SOPs. A desk with a ghosted nameplate no one would touch. HR said turnover is normal in a growth company. "You're too sensitive," a senior manager joked while handing me another NDA. And that's when I realized the NDAs were multiplying. NNTHE first real tremor hit on a Thursday. I found a padded envelope in the incoming mail bin with my high school nickname on the label. Only 3 people ever used it. Inside was a cheap thumb drive and a post-it, "Don't delete, he will." No return address, no context. I shoved it into my tote and tried to focus on catering checks for a product demo. The office smelled like burnt coffee and warm plastic from the demo lights. My phone buzzed with a calendar invite titled Investor Preview Penthouse. My stomach dropped. It only got worse from there. When the floor finally cleared that night, I plugged in the drive. A folder popped up. Journal, K. My sister's initial. The same K she used on our shared Google Doc when we were saving for a used Toyota back in Boston. Pages of dated entries loaded one by one. The first lines were normal. New job, great view, feels important. Then the tone changed. Mentions of rules, guidance, and "this is for your own safety." I rubbed my thumb over the raised edge of the gold keycard and felt the chill. And that's when I realized whoever wrote this lived where I was standing. Before you ask, yes, I thought it might be a joke. I checked the file properties, cross-referenced dates with internal invites, and looked for a prank. But there were too many small truths. The way she misspelled our mom's name, the same way every time. The nickname for our old neighbor's dog. The smell she described in the penthouse elevator, metal and citrus cleaner, exactly what I tasted after delivery runs. That was the moment I knew the journal wasn't fake, and I didn't sleep. The servers hummed through the ceiling. The city blinked in pink and blue, and the keycard sat on my desk like a coin I couldn't spend. Part of me wanted to forward the files to HR and pretend I didn't. Another part wanted to quit, delete everything, call my dad, disappear. But the last entry read, "If you're reading this, I couldn't get out." The date was 4 years ago. 4. My throat went cold. It only got worse from there. Here's the part one hate admitting. I kept going to work like nothing changed. Because rent. Because health insurance. Because maybe I'm wrong. Classic CEO affair scandal logic. Tell yourself you don't see what you see. The penthouse invite stayed on my calendar, and every time it popped up, my hands smelled like the whiskey I poured into crystal for guests. I set 2 alarms for the event and highlighted the time in red. And that's when I realized I was counting down to a room I was scared to enter. NNTHE day of the investor preview. The office light felt colder, even under the neon billboards outside. I tucked the thumb drive into my blazer pocket, slid the gold keycard behind my phone case, and told myself I'd gather facts, not feelings. In the elevator, I could taste the citrus cleaner and metal on the air. My boss messaged me on Slack. "Don't be late, big night." I stared at the screen until it blurred. "Without me, you're nothing," he'd said once. Tonight, I was about to find out if that was true. The penthouse smelled like money and control. Polished marble, soft jazz, a $900 bottle of whiskey open on the counter. I'd never been that high above the city before. Everything sparkled like it was trying too hard to prove it was clean. But all I could hear was the hum of the AC and the soft click of the lock behind me. That sound still lives in my spine. Guests trickled in, investors, influencers, people who say synergy with straight faces. My boss floated between them like a host and a god. He had that easy charm, the laugh that filled a room, the casual shoulder touch that made you feel chosen. "You made it," he said, taking my elbow. His cologne hit first. Something sharp, expensive, sterile. "Stay close tonight. I'll need you." I smiled, the kind of smile assistants master. Harmless, professional, a little dead behind the eyes. And that's when I realized he wanted an audience. Halfway through the demo, he started improvising. Slides changed without warning. Numbers twisted into storytelling. Then he did it. The moment that made my skin crawl. He turned to the crowd and said, "This entire operation works because of one person. My most loyal creation." And he pointed at me. Cameras flashed. My face burned under the light. People clapped. He winked. I felt the gold keycard burning in my pocket. That was the moment I knew he was performing ownership. And I managed to slip away as applause turned to chatter. The penthouse hallway was dim and too quiet. I followed the sound of air vents hissing behind a heavy door. It shouldn't have been unlocked, but the keycard beeped green. I still hear that beep in dreams. Inside was another world, bare concrete walls, a single lamp, a faint smell of bleach and metal. And then I saw her, in chains. A thin mattress. A face I'd spent 4 years convincing myself was gone. My sister looked up, and for a second I thought it was a trick of light. Then she whispered, "He said it's for my safety." Her voice was paper. She flinched at her own echo. That was the moment fear stopped feeling abstract. And I froze. The city roared faintly through tinted glass, but the room swallowed sound. I knelt beside her, fingers shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. "It's me," I said, and her eyes flickered like a dying screen. "He checks," she whispered. "He checks everything." The words barely made it out, and that's when I realized the cameras weren't just for show. There was one in the corner, tiny red light blinking. I turned away fast, pretending to adjust her blanket. My brain went cold, calculating. Motion sensors, camera angle, timing. I pressed the record button on my phone, tucked it under the pillow. "I'll come back," I said, forcing my voice steady. "I'll fix this." She smiled. Small, cracked, hopeful. That was worse than tears. I left through the same hallway, every step loud in my head. The party was still going. Music, laughter, the pop of a champagne cork. My boss raised a glass to someone from Forbes. "This company is family," he said, "and family looks out for each other." My throat locked. That line? He'd said it to me my first week. Family looks out for each other. Yeah, cages do too. And I stood near the bar, pretending to refill a glass, trying to breathe. My phone vibrated once, an email notification. Anonymous sender, subject line, "She told you." I opened it under the counter. A single line of text. "Don't make her suffer again." My fingers went numb. The room tilted. Someone laughed behind me, oblivious. That was the moment I realized I wasn't the only one being watched. And I left early, citing a server glitch. He smiled and kissed my hand like a movie villain. "Good work tonight. You're becoming irreplaceable." My skin crawled where his lips touched. I got home, locked the door, and sat on the floor with my laptop. The recording was there. Faint audio, her voice saying my name. Proof. Not enough to free her, but enough to damn him. I stared at the gold keycard on the table. It glinted in the dark, catching the streetlight like it was winking. "Without me, you're nothing," he'd said. I whispered back, "We'll see." It only got worse from there. The next morning, the city looked different. Colder. Even the steam from the manholes felt hostile. I didn't go to work right away. I sat on my fire escape with burnt coffee and stared at the skyline. Somewhere up there, behind mirrored glass, my boss was probably giving interviews about disruptive empathy. I almost laughed. Almost. That was the moment I realized the real trap wasn't the cage. It was the silence. At 9:02 a.m., he texted, "Need you upstairs. Bring yesterday's investor notes." And I typed back, "On my way." NMY fingers shook so badly I had to retype it 3 times. I'd read somewhere that fear smells like metal, because adrenaline changes your sweat. I swear I could taste it. The gold keycard felt heavier in my pocket, like it knew what I'd seen. NNTHE office buzzed with that fake startup energy. Beanbag chairs, espresso machines, people pretending we weren't all scared of losing our jobs. My boss was calm. Too calm. He poured 2 coffees like we were old friends. "Long night?" he asked, sliding one toward me. His voice was soft, syrupy. "You looked shaken yesterday." And I said something stupid like, "Just tired." NHE smiled. "You remind me of her, you know. Dedicated, curious." He didn't have to say her name. My stomach twisted. That was the moment I knew he was testing me. NNHE leaned back, sipping his coffee. People disappear when they lose purpose. You don't want to lose purpose, do you? "No," I said. My throat was sand. "Good." He smiled wider. "Because you're special. And I take care of what's mine." It was the kind of line that sounds flattering until you realize it's a sentence with no exit. I left his office, walked straight into the restroom, blocked the stall, and finally let my hands shake. The coffee burned my tongue when I swallowed the panic. I stared at my reflection. Same tired face, same lipstick, same corporate badge of honor hanging around my neck. That was the moment I knew if I didn't act now, I'd disappear too. NNSO. I called Mark. He's our cybersecurity engineer, the kind of guy who jokes about firewalls like they're pets. 2 weeks earlier, he'd warned me, "Back up everything, even your soul." At the time, I thought it was just tech humor. Now it sounded prophetic. NWE met at a cafe near Bryant Park. The smell of espresso hit first, then burnt bagels and rain on concrete. I told him everything. I didn't cry, but my voice cracked when I said chains. NHE went quiet for a long time, then said, "I can pull the building server logs. If there's surveillance, I'll find it. But if you're right, this guy's dangerous." "I know," I said. "That's why I need help." NWE spent the next 2 nights in a blur of coffee and code. Every few minutes, my phone buzzed. New tasks, new messages from my boss. "Need you early tomorrow? Don't talk to HR. Dinner at 8? I muted everything. My heart didn't get the memo. And Mark traced the video feed metadata to a private server registered under a fake subsidiary. We cracked it open, and there it was. Archived footage, timestamped, labeled assistant_V1, assistant_V2. Each folder was a nightmare. NTHE latest was V3. Me and NTHE moment, I saw my own face on that feed, organizing his files, smiling under fluorescent lights. Something inside me clicked. Not broke, clicked. That was the moment I stopped being scared and started taking notes. Mark backed everything up to a hidden drive. "If we go to HR, they'll bury it," he said. "If we go public, it'll explode." "Then we explode," I said. And I didn't sleep again. Every sound outside made me flinch. Elevators, sirens, the hum of my fridge. It all sounded like surveillance. I kept replaying my sister's voice. He said it's for my safety. The irony burned. Safety was the leash. The gold keycard lay on my nightstand, catching the city's glow through the blinds. I hated how beautiful it looked. That was the moment I knew beauty was part of the trap. NNBY sunrise. We had enough evidence to end his career, or end ours trying. The day we chose to move felt like any other Monday. Quiet, cold, deceptively normal. That's the thing about power. It doesn't explode, it leaks. Slowly. Until everything you touch smells like fear. And Mark and I had planned every step. He'd schedule a fake investor sync in the Penthouse calendar. Something to get our boss in one room, surrounded by the people he loved impressing most. I'd plant the evidence. The footage, the diary, the audio of my sister whispering my name. The goal wasn't revenge. It was daylight. That was the moment I realized exposure was safer than silence. And at 10 a.m., he pinged me on Slack. "It's live." The fake invite was already circulating through the executive channel. 7 p.m., Penthouse. Dress code, formal. The note read, "Special announcement from the CEO." Irony wasn't lost on me. And I spent the day pretending to work, answering emails, scheduling meetings, refilling espresso pods. Every sound felt amplified. The hum of the servers, the hiss of the coffee machine, the click of my keyboard like a metronome, counting down to chaos. When I washed my hands, the soap smelled like metal. When I looked at the keycard, it gleamed like a dare. Around noon, my boss appeared behind me. "Big night," he said softly. "You look nervous." "Just caffeine." I lied. NHE smiled, the same shark smile I used to mistake for approval. "Remember, perception is power. Let's give them a show." NTHAT was the moment I knew he suspected something. NNBY 645. The penthouse was glowing. Neon from the city mixed with the amber of chandeliers. Glasses clinked. The air smelled like whiskey and victory. He thrived in rooms like this. Rooms full of applause. I stood by the bar, heart pounding so hard it felt visible. Mark was hidden in the crowd, pretending to be IT support. Our code word was simple: reset. If I said it, he'd send the files. Every image, every diary page, every timestamp, straight to the press and the police. NNTHE speech started the way all his speeches did. Humble brag storytelling, fake vulnerability, the word family used like currency. Then he looked at me. "Where's our star assistant?" he asked. My throat dried up. Everyone turned. "Come on," he said. "Say something. Tell them what makes this company special." NNMY brain screamed, "Don't." But my mouth said, "It's built on trust." My voice cracked on the last word. He laughed. "Exactly," he said. "Trust." And that's when I said it. "Then let's reset it." And Mark hit send. NNTHE. Big screen behind us flickered. For a second, people thought it was part of the presentation. Then the folders appeared. Assistant _ V1. Assistant _ V2. Assistant _ V3. The crowd gasped. Someone dropped a glass. My boss froze. The footage started rolling. His voice, his words, his "you're mine." The audio of my sister begging, "Please, I want to go home." It was silent chaos. Cameras turned, phones recorded, investors stared. He lunged for the control panel, but Mark had already locked the system. Security rushed in, unsure who to stop. That was the moment the cage broke. NNHE shouted, "This is fake! Deep fakes! Lies!" Nye stepped forward. "Then why is my sister here?" NNTHE elevator dinged. She walked out, pale, trembling, but standing. A police officer held her arm lightly. The whole room went still. My boss's face drained of color. "You don't understand," he started. "And I do," I said. "Better than anyone." Flashes went off. Reporters whispered. The same investors who once toasted him now backed away like his guilt was contagious. He tried to approach me, voice shaking. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said, holding up the gold keycard. "But not as much as you." When the officers cuffed him, the keycard slipped from my hand and hit the floor. That tiny metallic clink was louder than any applause. And that was the moment I realized I wasn't nothing without him. He was nothing without control. NNTHE penthouse lights reflected across the glass walls like 1,000 tiny exits. I finally took one. They say silence after chaos is peaceful. It isn't. It's heavy. It hums in your chest like a machine that doesn't know it's turned off. After that night, everything blurred. Headlines. Investigations. Lawyers. Tech CEO arrested in Manhattan penthouse scandal. My name wasn't in the first wave of articles, but it floated around Reddit threads and Twitter gossip. Someone posted a still from the footage. My silhouette holding the gold keycard. The caption read, "The whistleblower assistant." I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like debris. That was the moment I realized survival is louder than revenge. NNTHE company froze our logins within hours. HR emailed a statement about privacy and healing, which translated to, "We're covering our asses." Mark was suspended, pending review. My sister was in a hospital ward under police watch. They said she'd been psychologically isolated, the polite term for what he did. I visited her once, but she barely spoke. She flinched when the door clicked shut. I didn't push. I just sat beside her and told her I'd kept the thumb drive safe. The light in her eyes flickered, fragile but alive. NNTHEDA wanted my full cooperation. I gave them everything: the logs, the emails, the footage, the diary. When I handed over the gold key card, the detective looked at it like it was cursed. Maybe it was. He bagged it like evidence from another world. That was the moment I knew the cage had finally changed owners. NNTHE weeks after were strange. Reporters waited outside my building, calling my name. Neighbors whispered in the elevator. Some called me brave, others called me reckless. My inbox was a war zone. Recruiters offering crisis PR roles, strangers thanking me for standing up. I ignored them all. I deleted Slack, wiped my old phone, and disappeared for a while. New York didn't care. The city never does. Billboards changed, startups rebranded, everyone moved on. Except me. I still saw his face on old ads sometimes, smiling under words like vision, integrity, innovation. Every time, I felt my pulse spike. That was the moment I realized trauma has good SEO, darn Mark, and I met once after it all settled. He'd grown a beard, looked older, quieter. We sat in a diner uptown, the kind with cracked vinyl seats and bad coffee. "You saved her," he said. "No," I said. I exposed him. "Saving her's gonna take longer." NHE nodded. Still, most people would have stayed quiet. "Yeah," I said, stirring sugar into my cup. "I almost did." NHE left the country a month later, consulting for a cybersecurity firm in Berlin. He still emails once a year on the anniversary. Subject line: reset complete. No text inside. Just that NA's for me. I didn't go back to corporate. Couldn't. The sound of Slack notifications still makes my chest tighten. I started a small nonprofit instead, with a few other ex-assistants who vanished from luxury firms. We help people document workplace coercion, NDAs, surveillance, intimidation. It's quiet work, no press, no spotlight, just digital daylight. Sometimes, when I'm locking up the office late, I hear the hum of the servers and smell the same burnt coffee from the old startup. It takes me back for half a second. But then I see the key we use to lock the filing cabinet. Just a regular silver one, no logo, no gold sheen. And I remember, control only works when you believe it's protection. That was the moment I realized freedom isn't dramatic. It's maintenance. NNMY sister's better now. She moved upstate, away from the skyline, started painting again. She still won't talk about what happened in that room, and I don't make her. Sometimes she sends me photos of the sky, wide, blue, clean, no glass. I keep them all. NNTHE last time we spoke, she said. He told me I was nothing without him. And I said, yeah. He told me that too. NWE both laughed, the kind of laugh that cracks something open. Now, whenever I walk past a high-rise with tinted windows, I wonder how many stories are still trapped inside, how many assistants still think silence is loyalty, how many keycards still shine like promises. NSO, tell me, if you found the proof that could destroy everything you worked for, but save someone you love, would you hit send?